All right, I think we are live on Facebook. And now we are live on Instagram as well.
Hi, guys.
Let's see. I don't know if anyone's joined yet.
Hopefully they'll join soon.
There's 10 people on Facebook.
Excellent.
And several people on Instagram, 5 people on Instagram. Alrighty. These are who we're working with today. This is Mila. And then Riley's over there. This is Katie Cannon, our education director. This is Carrie, program assistant.
Hey guys, we're gonna give everybody just a couple seconds to get logged on, and then we'll get going. But think of your questions, because I love to answer questions.
Hi from Holly Springs. Good morning, guys. Give you a look at Miss Mila. We've got 200 people watching on Facebook.
Fantastic. All right, so we'll get started, and hopefully everybody will keep joining in. But those of you who are with us, thanks for joining us. I am Katie, the education director at Carolina Tiger Rescue. This is Carrie, our program assistant. And we decided that we have the best social isolation out here with our tigers, but we decided we would share it with you if you're stuck at home. Grab the kids. This is family friendly, but we're going to go through what our enrichment process is with our animals. Enrichment is anything that changes up our animals' days. So in the wild, these guys would be patrolling miles and miles of territory. They would be hunting. They would be potentially caring for young or protecting their territory from other tigers. But here at Carolina Tiger Rescue, they don't have to worry about any of that. So one thing that we do is daily enrichment to keep them engaged. That keeps them physically healthy, but also mentally healthy as well. And so we have Mila here and Riley as well. Riley will come back at some point that we're going to give some enrichment to. And so what we have is when we have 2 animals like Mila and Riley, one thing that we want to make sure that we have is that everybody gets a fair share of enrichment. So we have 2 boxes, one for each of them. It's not designated which one goes to which. They'll decide that. And inside we have some paper. This has all been checked by our keepers to make sure it's safe for the animals. There's no tape. There's no plastic. There's no stickers on anything to make sure that if on the off chance one of them decides to eat a little bit of cardboard, it's safe. You could eat cardboard if you really wanted to. I don't recommend it. They don't tend to do it, but we want to make sure that everything that goes in is safe for them. So Carrie's going to throw in some more newspaper. We don't want to make this too easy for them, otherwise it's done in 2 seconds, and then although it was fun for 2 seconds and engaging for 2 seconds, then it's done. So we want to make this last as long as possible for them. So Carrie's got newspaper she's going to throw in there. We're also going to hide some meat. We have some chicken for them. We do feed a whole carcass diet here at Carolina Tiger Rescue, and we leave in the bone and all. We're going to hide some meat in there, and then we're going to spray it with one of their favorite perfumes. That's about. And they know what's coming, so they're very excited. And they're ready to go.
So Abby, who is 6 years old, asked, why do the tigers need to be rescued?
Why do the tigers need to be rescued? What a great question, Abby. So we currently have 16 tigers in the rescue. We have 50 animals total. Excuse me while I have to talk over the moans and shuffles of our tigers. So Mila and Riley came from a roadside zoo, which was a place that wasn't taking very good care of them. And when they were little, they had been bred for people to take pictures with them. And that's something that we don't like. That is not safe for them. They're taken from their moms pretty early. And then when they're too big, there's nowhere else for them to go. So when this facility closed down, we went and rescued them along with 14 other animals. So it's our biggest rescue to date. So sometimes people think they make good pets. They don't. Sometimes people think that they can just take care of them, and they can't. And so that would be part of the reason why they need to be rescued.
Thank you for the questions. Sophia wants to know what type of tigers we have.
What kind of tigers are they? Great question. They're orange. So our tigers are considered mutt tigers. They are not any particular subspecies because they're often bred at roadside zoos or in people's backyards with no regard to their genetics. So oftentimes it's kind of like picking up a dog at the pound that you're not quite sure what's in there. So we call them orange, or we call them mutt tigers.
Ooh, we're getting a lot of questions, guys. I'm going to try and get to them. I don't know if I can get to all of them. Easton, who is 8 years old, he wants to know how old the tigers are.
Do you remember how
They are 5 years old, Mila and Riley. They're our youngest tigers that we have here.
And how old do tigers tend to live to in the wild?
So in the wild, 8 to 10 years on average. In captivity, they can live into their late teens. Our current oldest tigers are 21. They're Mona and Moki.
Awesome.
So we've got the newspaper in, we've got the chicken in, we've sprayed it with some really smelly perfume. They really love Calvin Klein's Obsession.
Yes.
So we have sprayed it with that. We'll smell like it the rest of the day as well. We're going to close up these boxes so that it's, again, a little harder for them. And then we're going to show you how we shift these tigers so we never share the same space with them. So follow us. We're going to show you how this works. We're hoping that Mila and Riley also follow us.
They absolutely will, I think, given how excited they are. So Jackson, who is 6 years old, asks, how many tigers do we have here?
16.
We currently have 16 tigers.
All right, so
You want to come
Katie,
in the safety cage?
Riley, come on.
What we're doing here is we want to get our the animals shifted. We want to get Mila and Riley shifted over to the right. We're going to drop this door as she comes over. Oh. Mila! Mila! So as you can see, they have minds of their own, so they do what they want. Mila, come on! Mila. So we're going to drop this gate. And then what we do is we make sure that we can safely go into the other shift. So what we do is we call out that we have Mila and Riley in the small shift. We see that the door is down. And then we see that the far door is down. So they are shifted into their small shift, which means that we can safely, because we have Carrie here who is trained to do this, we can safely go into their large shift to put their enrichment in. We never, ever, ever share the same space with our animals. They are wild and dangerous. It doesn't matter that they lived around humans their entire life. They are wild and dangerous, and so we want to provide ourselves with a safe place and also with them. So they are shifted in their small shift. That door is down, and so we can safely go into their big shift to put in their enrichment.
Mila, Riley, shift gate, far shift gates down.
Mila, Riley, shift gate down, far shift gate down.
Carry 2 keepers, Katie and I are entering. Mila and Riley's enclosure.
We also radio to the keepers to let them know that we are safely going into this shift to leave enrichment for them, so that keepers are also aware of what's going on. It's all for safety. We want to make sure that everybody stays safe. The animals didn't have a choice in being here, and we want to make sure that they have a safe place for the rest of their lives, and that means that we take as many and all the precautions necessary to do that.
so I've got 2 questions. One from Julie on Instagram. She wants to know what is their favorite food. And then along the same line, do the tigers ever get any special treats?
So, first question, what's their favorite food? Meat. All the meat. Cats are obligate carnivores, meaning they have to eat meat to survive. And so we primarily feed out chicken. We do occasionally have fun treats come in. We have hunters who will bring us deer, and that is a special treat to them because they don't get it very often. But otherwise, they eat a lot of chicken.
And why do they like perfume?
That's a great question. I don't know that I can answer that. So they're very smell oriented, and so they respond to, each individual one responds to scents differently. We have found that most of them love Calvin Klein's Obsession or Ocelot. Magoo loves Axe body spray. We say that he likes to smell like teenage boy. But we're not really sure what's in the Calvin Klein's Obsession that makes that so special to them, but it's one that we don't use all the time. It's like if you were able to eat ice cream for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day, eventually you get tired of it. I don't know that I would, but I maybe after 60 days of it. So we don't want to use it all the time. We switch it up. Sometimes we'll use different extracts. One of our animals, our leopard Anthony, he loves lemon extract, and so it's just a variety. They each have their own personalities and their own likes and dislikes, but Calvin Klein's Obsession seems to be a favorite of everybody's. Awesome. So what we've done is we've separated out the 2 boxes because they're going to come back in here after we leave. We at the same time, we want to make sure they're far enough away that they don't think that they're competing for it, and they each get their own space and their own box with their own treats in it and own enrichment. What we don't want is for them to fight over it. Can't break up a tiger fight. We don't want to encourage that either. So we put it far enough away so that they can each get it and each have one, and they each get treats and enriched. So are we good?
Good.
All right, so we're gonna leave this space. We're gonna lock back up.
Got phones, keys, radios.
We've got all the things we brought in except for the boxes, because the tigers get those.
So Jackson wants to know, do our tigers ever have babies?
Good question. Our tigers do not. So part of being federally accredited sanctuary, we're the only federally accredited wildcat sanctuary in North Carolina. Also the only one that is accredited by the Global Federation of Animal Sanctuaries. Part of that means that we do not allow our animals to breed. These guys can't help wild populations because they're a mixture of different subspecies. So when places tell you, oh, we're breeding tigers, especially those places that allow you to hold and pet those cubs, we're saying we're breeding tigers because they're endangered species. They're not helping, they're actually taking resources away. So we do not allow our animals to have babies. These 2 used to be our youngest at 2 years old, but we don't have any babies here. They're very, very expensive, babies are, and they're a lot of work. Ask your parents. So we're all locked up. We're checking that lock and making sure it's locked. We're going to leave the safety cage. And then we're going to let you head over to the other side, and I'll come with you.
While we're walking over there, Easton wants to know, how can we tell the tigers apart?
How can we tell them apart? So tigers are super cool. Their stripes are different, just like our fingerprints. So as we get to know them, we notice differences in what their stripes look like. And we also notice differences in their personalities. So sometimes it takes a little bit of time, but eventually they look very different to us.
Allie, who is 10 years old, wants to know if any of them are sisters, or maybe if any of them are related.
Good question. So we don't always know if they're related. We do have a pair of tigers, Capriccio and India, that we know are brother and sister. But a lot of times when we get them from roadside zoos, there's not good medical records or birth records, and so we don't always know. And so we typically will just say, Mila and Riley share the same space. They live together, but we don't know if they're sisters or not.
Gotcha.
If you guys are ready, we're going to let the Mila and Riley, so we are out. We have locked up safely, and we're going to call over to Carrie to let her know that we are ready for Mila and Riley to get their enrichment. And so are you guys ready?
Let us know if you're ready. I think everyone's pretty ready.
All right, here we go. All right, Carrie.
Very excited.
Mila.
So they are digging, looking for that chicken that they smell.
Riley found her piece. Looks like Mila found a piece as well. Once they find that chicken, we're hoping that that scent will also become enriching for them. It's kind of like a big scavenger hunt. If they know it's in there, they gotta find it. They gotta work for it.
Let's see. Let's see if any other questions. Harper asked, how did we get this job?
How did we get this job?
It seems very cool.
It is very cool, and I would have to say, at least for me, that it's I couldn't ask for a better one. I actually started as a volunteer here at the rescue as a tour guide, and then decided that when the education director position opens, that, you know what, it'd be pretty awesome to be able to teach about one of my favorite things, which is tigers. So I applied, and I've been here for 5 years. So if you enjoy animals, one of the best ways to get started and think you want to do that as your job one day is to volunteer. And you don't have to, it doesn't mean with tigers, it can be at your local shelter that cares for the small guys. They need help too. And that's the best way to get started, and that helps future employers say, hey, they really like this and they've learned a lot, and it's a great way to learn. It's also a great way to figure out, do you really want to do this? A lot of people say they want to be keepers, and then they realize how hard it is to be a keeper. You're out in all the weather when it's hot and it's snowing, and if it snows, you have to stay here overnight, which sounds really fun and is for a day or two, and then you're ready to go back home. But it's a great way to figure out, is this something that you really want to do? And you won't really know until you get a chance to do it. So volunteering and helping out at your local animal shelters is a great way to figure that out. And then when you're old enough, we always need volunteers here at the rescue.
What time of day do we feed our tigers?
What time of day do we feed our tigers? So Mila and Riley are actually just getting a treat today. So we don't feed our tigers every day. They're not going to eat every day in the wild. They fast 2 days a week. And so they are going to be the envy of all the big guys in the sanctuary today, because they get a meat treat, and others may not. But we don't feed them at the same time every day. We want to make sure that is also part of enrichment. If they get used to a routine, then they may get bored. And so they never know what time the food is coming, and it all is dependent on what the keeper's schedule. So they may get fed first thing in the morning one day, and then the next day they may not get fed till the afternoon. As much as we can vary their schedule, that is really helpful to them to stay engaged and excited with what's going on. And as you can see, Mila has now, once she has discovered all the chicken and eaten all that, says, oh, this box smells so good. And it's going to rub all over it. Riley's making sure there's no chicken left in there. Like, surely there's something in there for me, right?
So Matty, he is 10. He wants to know if their fur is soft.
Is their fur soft? So we don't put our hands on our animals unless they're sedated for medical procedures, because again, they're wild animals. When we do, we do what are called knockdowns, which is just sedating them so we can put our hands on them and do physicals or any kind of medical stuff. Their fur, I think, Carrie, you may have a different answer, but I think their fur kind of feels like a German Shepherd. It's a little more coarse than you would think it is, and that thick fur in the wild is going to help them so that they don't get cut up by briars and thorns in the wild as they're going through the brush. And so it is very, very thick, but I think it kind of feels more like a German Shepherd. It's a little more coarse than you would think.
Yeah, you would expect them to be a lot softer than they actually are. So I would have to agree with you.
Do the tigers ever go back into the wild after being treated? That question is from Cecilia, and she's 10 years old.
Cecilia, that is also a great question. So our animals have never lived in the wild. And so we have one exception to that, which is Bo, our cougar, one of our cougars. But they've never lived in the wild, and so even though they have those natural instincts, they were never taught how to do them. They weren't with mom long enough to know what to do with them, so they will stay here for the rest of their lives. They will not go into the wild. But that doesn't mean they're not wild.
That's a good example. Let's see.
They got the zoomies.
How fast are the tigers?
How fast are they? They're
Very fast.
Faster.
Very fast.
Faster than humans. I don't know offhand how fast they really are, but they're fast.
Arush, he's 5 years old, and he wants to know, why do they have stripes?
Why do they have stripes? Great question. So they have stripes for camouflage. So it's funny how quickly these guys can blend into their surrounding with those stripes. And in the wild, they would be in tall grasses or in the woods, and they would just blend in. So it's to help trick the eye, especially the eye of their prey, that they're not really there, but they have it for camouflage.
Let's see. Do the animals have different personalities? Claire and Easton asked that question. So maybe.
Absolutely. So Carrie can probably speak a little more specifically to Mila and Riley as to their different personalities, but all of our tigers have different personalities. Riley tends to be a little bit more of an instigator, it appears, and is quickly over the enrichment and wants to mess with Mila. But Carrie, do you have anything specific with these two as far as their personalities?
Riley definitely likes to hide and jump out of places, especially when they have pools in the summer. Riley will hide in the pool and wait for Mila to walk by so she can jump out and scare the life out of Mila, and then they will zoom me around the enclosure. They are both young, so they're both pretty playful still, and they get along great and like to mess around with each other. Mila, I would say, is a little more laid back than Riley. Riley definitely has that more dominant feature to her. She's a little more spunky. She's looking for trouble. But they're really fun to watch interact with each other. Definitely see their personalities come out.
So I don't know if you guys could hear. I know that. Thank you, Carrie, for telling us about their different personalities. But I don't know if you guys can hear as Mila was licking that box. It sounded like sandpaper. So just like your cat at home, all cats. There it is. All cats at home. I know as soon as I start talking, she's gonna do it.
There you go.
So if you guys can hear that rough sounding, they have what's called papillae on their tongues. And that papillae is just like, again, with your cat at home, that rough tongue that helps them groom, but it also helps them take fur and feathers off of any prey in the wild that they would have taken down. So their tongue is extremely rough, just like your cat at home. If you have a cat at home, have ever been licked by your cat, their tongues are just bigger and more powerful.
Jack, he is 6 years old, and he wants to know if tigers can climb trees and fences.
Can tigers climb trees and fences? So tigers are not notorious climbers. They're not notorious climbers. Mila and Riley, though, have a bit of the wild child in them, as you can see. And they have been known to climb trees. So we have reinforced their enclosure. They have lots of corrugated metal at the top of their enclosure to make sure they're not trying to go anywhere. They just, again, as you've seen, get the zoomies and chase each other up trees. But tigers are top heavy, and that's so that they can take down their prey. And so typically they're not good climbers, but Mila and Riley, they've proven us wrong a couple times. So we make sure that they're in a safe place and they're not going anywhere. But they still have the ability to get that energy out.
Nolan, who is 6, wants to know if they follow directions.
Do tigers follow directions? No. No, they're kind of like your cat at home. If you've ever been around a cat, they do what they want. They're just bigger and over 300 pounds. I don't know specifically how much these two weigh. We do have the chance to weigh our tigers, and we'll do that for medical stuff. These guys are probably hovering around 300 pounds, but that's a 300-pound animal who definitely has a mind of its own, and like your house cat at home, does what they do what they want when they want. If we need to shift them, as you saw earlier, if we need to shift them to other parts of their enclosure, meat is a good enticer. They are typically run by their stomachs, and so as long as there's a meat treat or something on the other side, they typically will shift for us. That's not always the case. But one thing about, as we're talking about that, one thing we do want to say is whenever we shift an animal, it is somewhat of an imposition for them. And so if we're going in to clean, we always want to have to shift them for any reason. We want to make sure we leave enrichment for them behind. so that they see it as a positive of, oh, I had to go to that shift, but when I come back I know I get something good, so that they'll be more willing to do it in the future. Some of our older animals have wised up to it and decided I'm going to get the enrichment anyway, so I don't know that I'm going to shift right now, but eventually they all will shift for us.
All right, maybe we'll take a couple more questions and then sign off here, but this is a good question. So Avery, she's 5, he's 5. How many different types of tigers are there?
How many different types of tigers are there? That's a good question. There used to be 9 subspecies. 3 are extinct. The Caspian, Javan, and the Bali are now extinct. That might be a good thing to do today if you're stuck inside, is to research some of these different subspecies and where they live. But there are 6 left. 1 is considered functionally extinct, meaning it's not found in the wild anymore. It's only found in captivity. So in the wild, there are 5 subspecies left. And I'm not going to embarrass myself by trying to tell you what 5 those are off the top of my head.
Mira is 9 years old. Do the tigers ever talk to each other? How do they communicate?
How do they communicate? So they will chuffle. I'm wondering if we might be able to get somebody to chuffle. Carrie, do you want to come over to Mila, since she's right here, and see if we can't get her to chuffle for us? Chuffle is a social greeting. They'll also moan with each other.
She's like, I'm tired.
Mila says, I don't want to talk to you right now. But what they do is they chuffle, which is a social greeting they'll give to each other and give to us when they're not so tired. I think we've worn these ladies out, which is good news for everybody. But we will be doing more live posts, and we will certainly let you know when they're coming, and we'll certainly chat with one of our tigers who is a master chuffler, so that you guys can hear that. But they do chuffle with each other. They'll moan with each other. They also leave scent behind. They'll spray trees, and they'll claw up trees, which is a signal to other tigers that they live there. So sometimes communication doesn't mean that it's sound oriented. Sometimes it's smell.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. This was really awesome. We had some awesome questions. I'm sorry we couldn't get to them all, but we are going to be having a lot more live content coming your way on both Facebook and Instagram. So please stay tuned. We'll be posting about those on our social media channels.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Have a good rest of your day.
Bye.
Bye.